Folks, we're 29 days away from the midterm elections, and already Republicans are doing all they can to suppress your right to vote. We're seeing this in Texas, but also in Georgia. Well, the Secretary of State, Brian Kemp, he is running against Stacey Abrams to be the next governor of Georgia. Well, in 2017, they purged thousands upon thousands of people from the rolls. So although you're in Georgia and you might think that you're registered to vote, you might want to double check that. How do we know this? Well, Greg Palast, an investigative journalist who's been investigating voter suppression since 2014, he took them to court, or threatened to take them to court, to get the documents showing massive voter purging taking place in Georgia. He joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Greg, how you doing?
Okay.
So, Greg, give us a sense of how this debacle has been taking place. Republicans all across this country, they have been using voter suppression, all kinds of different schemes to remove folks from the polls. We have, of course, an outfit out of Virginia threatening a lot of these small towns in Mississippi, taking them to court, purging voter rolls. We've seen it happen in Florida with Governor Rick Scott. But in Georgia, the Secretary of State, Brian Kemp, he has been doing this. You busted him, correct?
That's correct. I started actually Rolling Stone investigation of this character, Brian Kemp, in 2014. So it's not like I went after him because he's running against Stacey Abrams for governor. He's been playing this kind of racist purge game for years now. So Rolling Stone, we first busted him in 14 and 16. I've continued on. I filed a lawsuit with the Reverend Jesse Jackson saying, or we were about to file a lawsuit. We gave him a 90-day notice saying, cough up the names of the people you have purged from the voter rolls and why you purged them, or we'll haul your behind into a federal court. Hours before the deadline of 90 days, which is required by law, he gave us the entire list of those who've been purged. If you are a Georgian or know anyone in Georgia, tell them to go right now to gregpalast.com. That's GREGPALAST, gregpalast.com. And you can check if you've been purged. And guess how many? It's 591,000 voters, over 500,000 voters purged in the year 2017, just last year. No one was sent a notice that they were purged. No one was sent a notice. 1 in 10 Georgia voters. So if you think, well, I can vote, it's an important race between Stacey Abrams and this guy, Brian Kemp. I'm not telling you how to vote. I'm just telling you, if you expect to vote, you better check. If you're on the voter rolls, 100,000 people have checked today, and thousands and thousands have had to re-register. Here's the problem, Roland. He stalled. We just put this thing out, and you've only got till tomorrow, Tuesday, today and tomorrow, to re-register to vote if you have been purged.
And Greg, look, I mean, not only has he doing this, and this is the key, a lot of people don't understand that it is the Secretary of State that really determines what happens with the vote. We also know that in the last election, Brian Kemp destroyed the hard drives of folks who voted, so they could not actually go back and double check to see what the impact was. I mean, this is a guy who was playing games with the voting rolls and the votes there in Georgia.
Oh, all kinds of games. And I want to tell you, one of the games that he was playing is called Crosscheck. There's a guy named Chris Kobach. He's the Secretary of State of Kansas. He's a white supremacist, and I don't use that phrase very often. In fact, I don't think I've ever described any other official as a white supremacist. But he is. He's counsel also for an organization that claims that its work is to maintain a European America. Well, what does that mean? I think we know what it means. And one of the ways they're doing this is that this guy, Chris Kobach, has created a list called the Interstate Crosscheck List. He gave 500,000 names to Brian Kemp. We have 108,000 of those names that Chris Kobach told Kemp to remove on the grounds that these are voters who left the state of Georgia. We have had experts go over every single name on that list. Of the 108,000 names of people that supposedly left Georgia, 106,000 are still in Georgia right at the voting address where they were registered. And yet they're losing their vote. They have no notice. And if they show up to vote at the polling stations, for example, there are 357 gentlemen named James Brown. Now, why did they put them down on the cross-check list? Because believe it or not, Roland, they found a James Brown living in Detroit, in Motown, and a James Brown in Virginia, and a James Brown in Arizona, etc. They found hundreds of James Browns, and they're saying it's basically the same guy, even though they're pairing up the James Browns of Georgia with James Browns. Like, for example, James Edward Brown is supposed to be the same voter as James Thomas Brown. I can't make this up. James Brown Jr. and James Brown Sr. are supposed to be the same voter. If your name is Jackson or Brown or Rodriguez or Garcia or Kim, look out, because there's a very good chance you're on this purge list. If you failed to vote and decided not to vote in 2014 and 16, you're almost certainly on this list. You have a right to vote, but they've purged you anyway. They're only supposed to purge you if you
So,
move.
Greg, for instance, there's a famous fisherman named Roland Martin. I also have my Google alert set to that. And then there are several other Roland Martins that have popped up over the last, couple of weeks. And so what these guys are saying is that, so we got a Roland Martin who's registered in Texas. Then there's a Roland Martin who might be in Wisconsin or in Florida. They're saying, that's the same person. Take the name off the list.
Yeah, because what they're saying is either you're voting twice, which is a crime, or you've just moved. So you moved to Texas to go fishing or whatever you're doing, right? So, but it's evil and it's racist, because when you use common names, just so you know, 85 of the 100 most common names in America are minority names, like Garcia, Rodriguez, Martin, and Jackson. Let me tell you, they have the whole Jackson 5. In fact, 5,000 voters in Georgia are named Jackson that are on this hit list. So please go to gregpalast.com, GREGPALAST. That's myname.com. We put it up there because it was technically the easiest. Put in your first name, your last name, your zip code. You'll get back your street address. If that's your current address or a former address, I'm telling you, you got to re-register right now. We'll have a link there. Secretary of State's office, Brian Kemp, sos.ga.gov is where you go to re-register. And you have 2 days to do it. I'm sorry, that's all they gave us. We still may sue him, by the way, to get everyone's name back on.
All right, Greg Palast, we certainly appreciate your hard work, and we'll keep pushing this story out to our followers as well. Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome.